It's cool because I have experienced so many different types of biohacking equipment, devices, vibration, light, form, structure. And just when I think I've got it all figured out and I've seen everything, I get my hand on two of the devices that you have been involved in, and both of them I felt immediately. That's important for people who are skeptical of technology and energy medicine and healing, because if I can't feel it, how do I know it's working type of thing? So I'm really excited to talk to you. Dmitri, why don't you go ahead and we're going to get weird today. So everyone, if you're not ready for weird, still listen because it's going to be good. Dmitri, maybe just introduce yourself and tell people what you're all about.
Sure. My name is Dmitri. I'm actually not that weird of a guy until recently. No, I came from tech, so I started in investment banking, then worked in like a couple bigger tech companies, started startups mainly on the software side. And a few years ago, I got involved in, I really got interested in health tech and had some experiences at the time, which kind of led me down some really interesting paths. And yeah, here we are. So didn't really expect to end up here, but here we
Here
are.
we are. If your friends were to describe you, how would they describe you?
I think people describe me as I am like always okay. Like always just, generally everything's always fine.
Interesting. Uh-huh. Okay. Are you a meditator?
I am I wouldn't say I'm a successful meditator. I have my own practice, right? Like I guess you can call it meditation. It's not like a meditation, but traditional sense. But yeah, I like to close my eyes and daydream and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. Let's just hit people over the head with it, because before we turn the recording button on, I said, "Hey, I want you to be honest, and I want you to be as honest and forthright and provocative as you need to be." And we're going to talk all about these two, the One Device and the TaoPatch, which
Yeah.
both of which I'm wearing presently. I've got mine on right now, which is just a gorgeous, just absolutely stunning piece that is really crazy effective. And then I have a towel patch taped to my skin up here on my bad shoulder, which also has blown my mind. Yeah.
Nice.
You got to tell me about the DMT experience that led to some of this.
Yeah, you want to just dive right into that one?
Let's just go head first.
It sounds good. Well, yeah, so a few years ago, I guess a little bit less than a decade ago, just was kind of on a personal transformation journey and did a bunch of different things, and it kind of culminated in this one 5-MeO DMT experience, which is called the God molecule. So normal DMT is called the spirit molecule, and this one is called the God molecule because it kind of like shows you what God feels like, which is pretty interesting experience. And it was once, and I haven't really talked about this in public, so this is a special moment for me. Just imagine all of a sudden my or your heart just expands, like blows up into millions of times bigger than it is, and suddenly you realize that everything that exists is contained in your heart. So it's not like you're one with everything, which is common to psychedelic experiences. In this case, it's like you are not just one with it, you are like containing all of it, which is very, very powerful. And I realized that, and then later I kind of as my consciousness came down from being everything to my current state, it kind of happened like I'm falling and I'm watching where I'm falling from. So I'm kind of falling like this and I can see what's happening around me. And I realized that in the center of it, where like my heart just, you know, was a second ago, there's this giant ball and it's a ball of light. But I also realized it's actually made of love. So this, I guess the saying that God is love and love is all there is, it's not a metaphor. It's literally like very, very direct exactly what it means. And I saw how like this ball of love is radiating energy all in all directions, and it's such an overwhelming amount of energy that I was just blown away by it. And I saw that as I came down, I saw how the closer to the center of this ball, the frequency of the vibration of this energy is very fast. It's like this. And then as it moves further away, it slows down and kind of becomes slower and slower. So it's kind of this cone-like shape of this vibration, of this energy. And so as I came down and I'm at my normal consciousness now, and I'm just in awe of just the sheer size and magnitude of everything. And then I realized that what we call the like universe, with everything that we see around us, it's literally just the very bottom of this spectrum of this vibration, where this frequency has slowed down enough where it feels solid. And the visual that I had was, it's such a small layer, what we call the universe, what we call what we can see, all the stars, all the galaxies, everything that exists in our universe, is a very thin layer at the very bottom of this massive, massive, massive sphere, I guess, of energy. And so I'm getting somewhere. So because of this cone-like shape, there's a tremendous amount of leverage in this energy. And so when I came down, I realized, okay, so this ball of love is constantly it's giving us everything we need. It's giving us so much energy, we have no idea what to do with it. And then I'm like, okay, so if this ball of love is giving us all this energy, then why do we have problems in our lives? And I realized that the reason we have problems, the reason things are not okay always, is that we are not in resonance and alignment with that energy, because I talked about the leverage a second ago. So down on this level in our 3D existence, we can run around and do all sorts of work. But up here, because of this cone shape of this energy, it takes a very small shift up here to make a huge impact down here. Right? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
This almost triangle or
Like a
cone shape.
fulcrum. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just basically leverage. And so it takes, again, a very small shift to make a really big impact down at our level. And so then I'm like, okay, so if that's the case, how do we align? What does it mean to be aligned with this energy, to vibrate in resonance with it? Well, we can think of it in terms of mental, emotional, spiritual, physical levels, right? So to align with this unconditional love, how do you think about things? You feel like unconditional love would think about things, probably doesn't care that much about your problems. How would you feel, right? So you would feel love towards everything, and again, spiritually as well. But on a physical level, like by the time we get down to like our existence, what does it mean to be in resonance with this field, with this energy? Well, it seems physical. What you eat, what you put in your body. Exercise seems to be important. The air, water, and food should be relatively clean. And then I'm like, okay, so it must be physical vibration. It's literally about resonance. It's about waves. So light, sound, electromagnetic waves, and actually physical waves is what's affecting vibration in just very physical, mainstream physics terms. And so that's how I got involved with this frequency medicine, with light therapy, sound therapy. And I realized, like, literally, that's the most direct way of affecting our physical state, is through things that are not so physical by normal means. And by the time, now you got me started. I'm just going to keep going. And by the time you're dealing with disease, I guess, or by the time you're dealing with problems on a really 3D level, it's kind of too late. So our medicine, our health and wellness and biology and longevity is very much based on the idea that everything is made of molecules, made of solid things, right? That's why we take supplements. That's why if you have a injury, you can just cut something with a scalpel, right? Or just very physical therapies. But if you think about it, it's really too late, because by the time a disease or disorder has materialized into this 3D level, it's already gone through several layers above. And so by affecting it with frequencies, again, light, sound, vibration, electromagnetic waves, you're addressing almost the root cause, like before it gets all the way down. And that's what led us here today.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad we started here. I agree completely. One of the themes of this podcast, with many episodes across, from Dean Radin to Bruce Lipton to, Sean Baker to you now, is this theme that we get fitter, we get stronger, we get more healthy in our body, and that has an effect on our consciousness, has an effect on our awareness. if you are sick and diseased and overweight and underslept and you have physical issues, it affects your attention, it affects your mood, your emotions, your ability to sleep, your ability to meditate and to be closer to God. Then the opposite is also true. If your consciousness is light as a feather, if your awareness is gentle and calm, if you have temperance and balance, and you are okay in your sort of default mode network part of your brain, which is kind of like the house of just sort of the containment unit for your ego, if all that's pretty good, it's easier to be physically healthy. And so they're
Mm.
totally intertwined in that way. And I'm also reminded of this idea of matter is just ultra condensed light. Matter is light that just kept getting condensed and getting condensed and
Mhm.
getting condensed. And we know that through science now, that the closer we look at things, the more we see the space in between things. And this idea of like mind before matter, this esoteric, this occult knowledge that centers around the fact that before there were things, there were thoughts, there was light, there was energy, there was vibration, there
Yeah.
was consciousness, and consciousness is now the, predominant force in the universe rather than matter. And so it makes sense to me, everything that you've just mentioned. And I think the imperative that you're talking about around, well, yeah, if you've got an injury or a dis-ease, they're way upstream from that is a non-physical issue that can be nourished or healed or handled to make the body better, to recover faster.
Mhm.
And so now skip a couple chapters ahead to where this beautiful psychedelic experience with Bufo led you to create or co-create this device that we're wearing around our that we're wearing as a pendant here on a necklace. What does it do, and why this design? What's in it? How does it work?
Sure. Well, I guess before I talk about it, I should talk about TaoPatch, which is kind of
Sure.
the origin, but also, and TaoPatch we didn't invent. It was invented by a brilliant gentleman from Italy who came up with this nanomaterial that converts body heat or infrared energy into a visible light spectrum. So they actually glow in the dark, but they also, not just in the dark, they always glow, but you can only see it in the dark. And so if you're familiar with light therapy or low level laser therapy specifically, it's basically that, but without batteries. And you just stick it on your body somewhere, especially where it hurts, like where you have pain. And it's just like applying light therapy 24/7. And it works for 3 years without batteries. Really, really amazing.
Let me
And
pause you there. Let me
yeah,
because that in and of itself is out
pretty
of
crazy.
some like Michelle Mencken sci-fi novel, that there is a sticker when you turn around and see the side that touches your skin. It looks like a computer chip. You tape it to your skin. It converts your body's energy, gives it back to you, and heals you or helps you sleep or helps you focus. So that in and of itself is already like, what are we? That's
Yeah.
already a sort of a mind blower. So how did he conceive of this? And I will tell everyone listening right now, you guys were nice enough to send me the TaoPatch Sport, where I did a little bit of research. I was trying to wrap my brain around it, and then we talked about it a little bit more, and you're like, yeah, it's gonna help. I I there again, there are so many things that I've tried, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things that I've tried, and my shoulder, there's a ligament in my shoulder that got jammed when a 280-pound white belt basically swan dived onto me while I was on the ground, and my arm was locked out, and he landed with his full force onto my hyperextended arm that drove my shoulder into itself, thus stressing this ligament in my shoulder. It's been bothering me for a couple of months. I'm not exaggerating. In about 6 hours, it felt better. I had better range of motion. I had
Mhm.
less inflammation. I had better strength on that one spot. And I only used one of the three stickers. I still only used one of the three. And I know
Mm.
get to it, Sean, put the other two
Yeah.
on there. I've got it directly on that spot on that ligament. It took 6 hours for it to feel way better. That So, okay, now, Sean, get off your soapbox. How did he come up with this? And what is the big thesis here? And how did you get involved?
So I got him. Okay, so how did he come up with it? So initially, it's kind of a long story of just developing. And well, okay, first of all, this material called quantum dots was actually invented by a gentleman, I forget from where, in 1998, I want to say. They just got the Nobel Prize in Physics for this 2 years ago in 2023. So it took the Nobel Institute like what 20 some years to catch up with it. Pretty crazy.
Whoa.
But yeah, so this material is very unique, and it basically has this very unique property that it can take your one form of energy and then increase the frequency of it, right? Because infrared is like very low frequency, and then this glows all the way to blue. So you have to increase the frequency, which actually requires, or there's an energy loss that happens, right? It's not so easy. And yeah, and so this was initially designed for pain because Fabio himself had pain from a accident that he also same thing, like nothing helped. And then he got involved with light therapy and figured out that, well, light therapy really works. Like, how can we make it better? And so this was the solution. And then what's really crazy part is, it was doing amazing things for pain and tension. But one day, one of the doctors who was using it put it on a person with multiple sclerosis, and the person was like basically wheelchair bound. And within 15 minutes, that person got up and like walked like he hadn't walked in years. And so then we realized like, oh my God, it's doing something we didn't expect. And we did a study with MS patients, and since then done several others. Parkinson's is doing amazing things. And basically any neurological disorder where your nervous system is not functioning well, it turns out to help. And again, who knew? But what's happening is basically and we don't really fully understand or I guess the Western science doesn't fully understand the mechanics of how and why light has this effect, but it has to do with, and I'm not directly answering your question, but I'll.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Well, so it has to do with resonance, but let's get to that a little bit later because that's one thing at a time. So anyway, so I got involved with it a few years ago with my good friend who's also from Italy, came across this product, and we decided to basically bring it to the US, and we've been global distributors of it outside of Italy since then. And well, and then 4 years ago, I started thinking, okay, so how do we make it better? How can we take what's working, subtract what's not working, add a few other things that need to be added. And I honestly, I can't really take the credit for it because it was really channeled. Like it's, how, I guess everything is channeled, right? Because like
Everything.
thoughts aren't really yours, right? They just come to you. And so I guess I'm grateful that it chose us to bring it into to materialize it, right? Kind of what you were saying, like it's just before it's 3D, it's condensed. So like to crystallize, I guess is another way.
Hmm.
Yeah, but also there's a lot. Like it took 4 years of like very easy trial and error, and working with a lot of different engineering teams, and just trying to getting it right. And yeah, we just launched it in earlier this year in April. Very much underestimated the demand, and so had to like work on scaling up our production, and very good problem to have.
Yeah, I mean, for a technically a wearable that you can wear 24/7 that lasts for 3 years, that costs a couple $100, that you can feel working. In my case, after 6 hours, it's like, okay, well then, if the potential for that, I mean, obviously, because I'm an extreme person, I'm thinking I want all of them. I'm going to put them all over my body. I'm going to put
You
one on my
should.
third eye. I'm going to put one on my dick. I'm going to put one, you know.
You're not the first.
I can't be the first person that's thought of that. I'm gonna put sport on my junk, and I'm gonna put, focus on my third eye. I mean, the potential is incredible. And when you shared with me that Djokovic wears these and swears by them, he's a hero for the natural health movement,
Yeah.
and on so many levels. Maybe what is he? Which ones does he wear, and how often, and where on his body?
So it started with his knee. But yeah, I kind of switched from TaoPatch to one device, but
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
do one at a time.
We'll jump
Yeah,
around.
so Djokovic, he had a knee injury for a while, and he also tried a few different things, and so that's how he started with TaoPatch, is by just putting on his knee, where and it's just it really helps, right? And it's nothing like it's basically what light therapy would do, but again, the key here is it's consistent, right? It's instead of just doing like for an hour at best, holding this light to your knee, not gonna do it. Not with this. You're with Talpatch, you're applying it all the time, and even though it's not bright light, but it turns out consistency is a lot more important than brightness. And in the case of one device, like yes, you can hear it when you put it to your ear, but it's not like crazy. It's not crazy loud, which is actually better because this kind of gentle whispering works better than screaming when it comes to your body,
Mm.
especially these subtle.
Consistency in the dose is better than a one-off blast of something and then right back to where you were.
Ironic because a few months later, Robert Downey Jr. is at what's it called, the Golden Globes, and he wins the award for Oppenheimer, and he's holding his award like this, and the camera catches it. He has the towel patch sticking here. It's
Huh.
pretty cool.
Very cool.
I think he's been buying them for everyone. It's great.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Like so many things, like when something works for you, even a little bit, but it moves the needle and you become aware of it, you want to tell your friends, you want to tell your family, you want to tell your grandma and your buddy that has, MS, you become an advocate when you understand, when you have that gnosis, that experience that this thing actually works. It's not just theoretical, but it actually functions the way that it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And admittedly, I'm underutilizing mine because I'm just using the one. And even though you guys sent me the information and the resources for like how to like where to put them, how to do testing, how to optimize the use, I haven't even gone that far yet. Um, so I'm excited for where this could go. But for in terms of biohacking, if you want to call it that, in terms of energy medicine, the stuff that works, that people notice, that's the biggest deal. You could do your blood work and see if carnivore is working for you. You could do your blood work and see if prostate is being your prostate levels are better from cold plunging. But if it's like I'm just gonna slap this thing on my shoulder and just see how I feel, and then 6 hours later it works way better, the proof is there. And I
Yeah.
imagine that most people notice the towel patch pretty quickly.
It varies. Pain, yeah, I would say with pain is just it's very noticeable. With other things, it can take time. It just really depends on the person. It depends on how sensitive you are. It depends on how long you've had the condition. So in many cases with MS, like it's a noticeable difference, but more importantly, visible difference in how you walk and how your gait changes, how your range of motion changes. Because I mean, I agree with you, and yes and no, because a lot of what people like, some people have this idea that, oh, it could be placebo effect, so it means it's not real, which is always also the funniest thing, because like the placebo effect is the most real thing, the most like proven thing from every study ever conducted. It's crazy. But yeah, so personally for me, I even with the one device, I actually don't like feel it when I put it on, but I notice the results over time. So it's like it's stacks.
Yeah,
Same for Towel Patch.
yeah. Well, it's for a lot of these things, for a lot of devices or wearables or shifts that you have in your lifestyle, what happens is when something improves a little bit, it's a snowball effect. This, I feel a little less inflamed today, so I'm more apt to go for a walk. And because I went for a walk, I'm sleeping better tonight. Because I got good
Mm,
sleep the next morning. So it's like these little incremental changes can lead to these knock-on effects that change people's lives. I can just think of countless examples of this, of how a little adjustment led to some other improvement in other areas, where 3 months go by and you're a different person because you've got momentum behind you. What is your dream for? Let's stay on the TaoPatch for a bit. What do you hope for this company and for this technology?
I'm just with everything else. I mean, I hope or expect the world to finally catch on to the fact that this is very real stuff. There is this, the people who try it, for us, it's a no-brainer. If you feel something, you notice a difference, it all makes sense. The issue we have is, okay, so for over 100 years, we've known that physics is quantum, right? 100 years ago, we discovered that everything is made from these like waves, and sometimes they're waves, sometimes they're particles. If you're looking at them, it's a really strange thing. But basically, at the end of the day, everything is waves. Unless you observe it, then it's a particle. Even though this is proven, we have seen this work for over 100 years. We've built our electronics based on this principle. But when it comes to our bodies, when it comes to biology, and especially when it comes to health and medicine, we're still in the Newtonian molecular physics mentality, right? And so that's why, like, if it's a supplement, it feels very real. Even though, like, the funny thing, we take supplements, even most of the time, we don't feel something when you take them, right? But like, you know, it's the right thing to do, and so we continue doing it. And then you can take the blood test and find out. But anyway, but so when it comes to the frequency medicine, so light, again, sound and vibration, it's very real. It's very proven basic physics. Nowadays, it's actually even medically proven. We have 13,000 studies on PubMed on the benefits of light, sound, vibration therapy and electromagnetic therapies. But still, like, in our mind, it's a little bit hard to grasp, like, how that's possible, or why is this faint light you can barely see is doing this to your shoulder, and why this thing I can hear when I put to my ear, and like this infrared light and light that I can see here, why it's doing the things that it's doing is just hard to understand this. And so to some people, like, oh, that must be fake or it must be placebo because it's so woo-woo and out there. So what my goal for this is, I know this is going to happen with or without us. In 10 years, this is going to be the norm, right? Even 5, probably. I mean, aliens are already going to be here, but certainly this will be very real. So my goal is to just make this happen a couple of years faster, and, you know, save some lives and save some pain and anguish for a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm curious about you, Dmitri. You're kind of an interesting guy. What was your moment where you decided, this like high tech software career I'm on is not it? It's not what I want for myself. A lot of guys like you and myself have like a story for like that moment where you realize, like, oh, I've got to change things. I'm going to head in a different direction. What made you want to ditch the corporate life and become a healer of sorts?
Thank you. Well, so I think it was that moment that I described when it was just like a very visceral understanding of how the world actually is and how it works. And again, I don't, this is my personal experience, so I don't want to like put this on anyone, but I realized that things are really different from how I used to think. And to me, like, the most important thing is for everybody, myself, starting with myself, to to vibrate in resonance with that energy. Let's just call it source energy, because when we do, everything goes away. So the reason that the pain stops when you, or different disorders stop when you put these things on, is not because it's doing something to those things. It's putting you in resonance with your core vibration. And when you're in the resonance of that core vibration, all the other problems just kind of go away. Just notice that the pain is gone, because that's the first thing that's bugging you. It's like a layer of the onion. So it first works on the things that like are most screaming, right? And then little by little, it gets to the bottom. And so at the end of the day, like, what I notice, I knock on wood, I don't have serious physical problems. When I started testing the first version of the one device, I started seeing synchronicities increase in my life, just like random things, right? Happening synchronously or synchronistically. And so that is another sign of you being in resonance with your higher self or whatever you want to call it. And so it's reducing problems, it's eliminating disease, but it's at the end of the day, it is reaching our full potential and living just a higher quality of life more overall with ourselves and for everyone else, right?
Do you think that there is going to be a distinction between the people who get on board with this type of information or knowledge or awareness and those who don't?
It's a really good question. My gut tells me that they won't have a choice at some point. Like it's just going to be so in your face. I mean, there are flat earthers out there today, right? So there's probably still going to be people that don't believe it. But remember when, I don't know when you got on this weird journey, but it's been a while for me. And like, I remember when it was really weird to talk about this stuff. And now it's just like kind of weird not to talk
Yeah.
about it. And so I think we're going to reach a point where it's going to be weird if you're like, what, you don't believe
Mm.
in frequency medicine? That's really strange.
Aha. Yeah, I get that. I get that. I mean, part of me agrees with it, and aliens might help, really shake people. I think the scamdemic helped kind of people on the fence become more aware of the manipulation of our health and bodily
Hmm.
sovereignty. I think that it helped a lot, but I think that there is an increasing force in reductionist materialist scientism where people, if you can't touch it or measure it, it doesn't exist and it's no good. I'm going back to an episode I did with David Avocado Wolf a couple of years ago where he talks about this Rudolf Steiner concept of uh, um, harmonic forces in the world. And the need to measure and gauge and work in the tangible versus a non-material, non-scientific awareness of the world. And I hoped, because I got put in YouTube jail. I've been shadow banned for years, asking hard questions over the course, well, for a long time, but over the course of the last 6 years or so. And everything that I questioned has come out now as like, yeah, we should have been asking that question. But there's still people that really, really resist the idea of energy as healing or that love governing the cosmos, these concepts that are not rooted in reductionist materialism. So part of me hopes that it will be so in our face, that it will be undeniable, that there are things that we can't really understand that actually do help us. I don't know. Even as optimistic as I am, I just think like people have bought into it for such a long time that they kind of identify with like, no, I need a doctor, I need a pill, and if I can't get a doctor and a pill, then I'm unsavable. I don't know. I don't know.
But I mean, okay, but so you don't even think in 20 years that's gonna 30, 40, 50?
Well, what's interesting to me is, I have two kids. I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And what I think about their future and what is reality going to look like, AI is going to be part of everything, every part of their life, good, bad, or indifferent. They have access to all the knowledge in the world in their pockets the same way that we do, but they were brought up in this way. I still think that it's going to take a a revolution of consciousness to get to a point where people can understand or at least stay open to what we're talking about: energy, frequency, light, vibration. I think that it's going to take aliens. It's going to take a return of some deity. I think it's going to take something massive for people for everybody to get on board. I don't know.
I hear you. I don't. I also don't know. I don't think it's gonna be everybody, but it's just if we think of percentage wise, like 80%, I'm pretty sure, and especially because the baby boomers who are more set in their ways are, not going to be here in quarter of a century. I don't know. Even though the one of the really exciting things is with all of the improvements in longevity, I'm pretty sure living to 150 easy, well, with high quality of life, more importantly. But I think in order to live to that age, I think you're going to have to get on board with these therapies, right?
Early.
Early, exactly.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. That's a really great point. And that's part of what I'm doing here. Honestly, that's why we're talking is because information like the information that you're sharing, the devices that you're sharing, your concept, the sort of Venn diagram of psychedelics and health optimization and consciousness, health span are obvious to me and you, but not to everybody else. And for my children who have recently started Googling me, uh, and and their friends are, and they're finding some of the stuff that I talk about on the internet is an is an interesting process. And I I'm not I'm not shying away from it. I believe, obviously I'm proudly having these conversations because they need to be had, because it's going to take an archive of information like this and the promotion of high quality products, high quality food, protecting our air and our skies and our soil, so that my 12 and 9-year-old are on board with energy medicine. They're already meditating. They see,
Mhm.
dad's biohacking studio, they're cold plunging and meditating and toying around with biogeometry and the one device and pulsar and all these other cool things,
Nice.
because I want them to be exposed to that, because then they can share that with others. So yeah, I'm optimistic. And even if I'm a little nervous about where this goes in 20 years, I'm still on the grind. I'm still promoting and supporting and storytelling and interviewing guys like you that can help get the word out, because we do have to find the others and we need to get on board because there's better ways.
So true. And I think thank you for bringing this up because I think I'm so much in the echo chamber. Like we go to the same longevity conferences where everyone is already on that wave, but you realize that like not everybody is. So yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah, not everybody is. My parents aren't,
Yeah. Well,
my like my buddies from high school aren't, they still kind of like, okay, Sean, what's the conspiracy today? And then I tell them, and they're like, "You're so full of shit." And then a year later, they're like, dude, Florida just, passed legislation to protect the skies from chemtrails. You were right." And I'm like, "I fucking know. I've been telling you." It's a marathon, not a sprint. It takes real consistency, and it takes advocacy. And here's the other thing too that jumps out at me is it's this chicken or the egg thing. And this is also a theme that we've talked about on the podcast a lot, but it just bears repeating. If you're sick, unhappy, and unhealthy, you often don't have the time or the energy to open up your awareness or do research on stuff like this, right? Like, if you're just barely getting through the day and you're having a bottle of wine every night and you're glued to your phone, it's tough to break through that and feel refreshed and happy just by yourself and reset your dopamine and get your life together so that you can have the energy to stay open and research some of this stuff and do some of your own thinking and some of your own N of one experiments with devices like the ones we're talking about, with the movement of natural health and energy medicine. It takes a healthy person, it takes a healthy body and a healthy brain to be able to
yeah.
break into that so that then you can go and run with it. And because I've been so into, biohacking for such a long time, my origin story involves flotation therapy centers. That was my big thing. I jumped out of the corporate world and opened a float tank center here in Seattle,
Nice.
and the rest is history. Now I'm whatever it is I do now, coaching, working with executives, a top 1% podcast, consulting with different companies. That I think everybody should be looking for opportunities to kind of break out of the fear mindset and the pain and the stress and into something different because your life could look real different pretty quick.
But it's almost it takes kind of like a reversal of the Maslow pyramid because we right like we historically think like first you have to have your bases met, then your food, safety, and so like house, and then you get to the top. And so and the stuff we're talking about is kind of considered to be here, right at the top, but really it should be the reversed. And if we start from this level,
Ah.
start from health, then everything is easier.
Interesting idea. Start with the self-actualization and then your relationships will improve and then your health will improve. You're kind of invoking that sort of cone shape again, that
Yeah.
like concentration of things, which I read somewhere and I didn't do a deep dive on it, but I read somewhere that before he died, Maslow had another
Hmm.
iteration
Hmm.
of the pyramid or of the triangle that had an inverted pyramid on the top, which was like total consciousness. So at the very top is self-actualization. And then apparently there's another pyramid that starts at the very top that goes up from there, which is around like transcendence. This is like oneness that didn't get as popular, but yeah, that's an interesting
Interesting.
idea.
I heard of the transcendence, but I thought it was just another like narrow thing. But yeah, it makes sense that it would be wider, actually.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What other
Well, and
Yeah, go ahead.
so this is the funny thing. Is like, what you asked about what moment did it change for me? It was that moment where like I felt what God feels like when you just you feel like everything, and you realize it just puts a really different angle on our like everyday world, and it's um and what's important becomes changes as well. Um,
Yeah. Is it tough to walk the line between, okay, let's take the one device now. Is it tough to walk the line between, okay, it's made of this, it has this in it, it has these lights, it does this thing, getting really granular into the material, the effect, while at the same time, the foot on the other side of the fence is like non-material. It's potentially non-scientific because we're talking about energy and shifts in frequency in the body that's harder to measure. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
How do you toe that line?
It's a really good question. I just do both parallel, and like when somebody asks me to describe it, I go, do you want the Western science way, or
Yeah.
do you want like the more spiritual way? And the science way is good news for us. We're right at the intersection of both, so it's very easy to do that. On the one hand, like we just say, well, we have 13,000 studies showing how what these therapies do, and all we're doing is we're making it wearable. Like if you go into a red light bed, if you go into infrared, or light therapy or sound healing, we know what those things do. But again, doing it for an hour is very different than doing it all day long. And so that's the mainstream Western way. And then the more Eastern way is, again, everything is vibration and we have our core frequency, but everything universe vibrates, but it also resonates with everything else. And so that's good and bad thing. The bad news is that when we also resonate with all the things around us, like our Wi-Fi and our phone and the car battery and all these things, but not just electrical things, but like also annoying friends, right, and family members. All of this takes us out of that frequency, and so that's the bad news. The good news is you just need something coherent to resonate with, and so that was kind of the origin of this. It just gives you kind of like a tuning fork for your own energy system.
So let's dive into it. Let's dive into the one device a little bit deeper.
Sure.
Um, what are its features? What are its benefits? And how does it work?
You want the Western way or the, or
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Give me the Western way first.
Okay. Well, I mean, I already, I think, basically gave everything. So it's a combination of, so there is an infrared LED, a
And
normal visible.
for those of you on YouTube,
Yeah.
you can actually see the device he's
Oh
holding
yeah.
up, and you can actually see the lights changing
Exactly.
on the back of it.
Yeah. You have to
That light
tap it.
touches your skin. So you're wearing the pendant with that light touching your
Right.
facing toward you.
Yeah. And
Okay.
it's facing your, depending on your belief system, your heart chakra or your vagus nerve or the conception vessel from Chinese medicine. Um, it also creates a sound, so you can, if you put it to your ear, you hear it. When you wear it, like here, you already don't hear it, but right on your ear you do. And what it's doing is rotating between different frequencies, and you can also tap it like I was doing earlier, and it shifts the frequency, and you can tell by the color which frequency it is. And each frequency has a different intention behind it. So what's also really cool is we can program your own personal resonant frequency into it. It's a little bit of an involved process. Right now, we have centers in New York, LA, and London, UK, where you can go in and connect to to electrodes and measure your HRV, and we can find your own resonant frequency. Pretty cool.
Can you unpack what find your own resonant frequency means?
So, yes. So this is not our invention. So one of our advisors and good friends, Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, he's been in this field since the 80s. So he's figured this out, that basically if you can hook a person up to electrodes, which measure your HRV, but they measure the electrical impulse causing the heartbeat. So it's a little bit different from like a normal heartbeat distance, HRV. And so you lay on a massage chair with vibrating transducers, a vibrating massage chair and with headphones. And what you're doing is it's playing this sound sweep. So it's like this, much slower. And we're measuring how your HRV reacts to the sound that's being played. At a certain frequency, we find where your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system are in balance. And that is the frequency that your body responds to particularly well. And so as it turns out, that frequency never changes. We've done now thousands of people, and there've been a handful of people out of thousands for whom the frequency changed by just a couple decimal points of hertz. So a hertz is like barely audible, or not audible, perceptible difference. So you really can't tell the difference in the sound. And the only time that happens is when a person goes through a traumatic life event, like a divorce or something. It could shift a little bit.
Wow.
So that frequency, but this is really crazy, right? So that frequency is always with you for your whole life, which is really fascinating.
What's your frequency?
93.82.
What color is that?
It is kind of on the orangish side.
That's awesome.
It's really crazy, man. But so this is why I'm so excited to be in this field, because this is just tip of the iceberg. So get this. So we are, okay, maybe I should, okay, I'll give a preview. So later next year, we're launching voice analysis, where you can speak into it and analyze and so this is also not we're partnering with some really smart people who have developed this. There's so much information in your voice, and that one is a lot more real time, so you can determine many, many things from breaking down your voice. So that's one. But then get this. So Dr. Thompson, who developed this HRV technology, so he's also figured out how to isolate the sound of, the frequency, the sound of oxygen. So the molecule of oxygen, it has a particular sound. I forget exactly what the hertz are. So then he hooked up or laid 40 people study. He laid people on the same vibrating chair with headphones and played the sound of oxygen through the headphones and through the chair. And the blood oxygen concentration increased for those people, with significance, which is insane. And that's just oxygen, right? So right now we're also through in our group of crazy frequency friends, we can do we have the frequency of melatonin that we can play, right? We have frequency of basically we're coming up with the frequency of Viagra that's coming.
Yeah. Yes.
This is it. This is the future. It's already here. Oh, and then get this. So psychedelics, right? So we talked about that. I'm pretty sure in 10 years, you're not going to need to take anything orally. It's really, everything is just a frequency thing.
Are you familiar? They're blowing my mind. Yes. Are you familiar with the AO scan? The AO scan is a device that you put on your jaw that measures your entire body through your vagus nerve. I'm going to butcher this. It's a German, but you also speak into it. And when you speak into it, it records that. And then you get a bunch of information about what's messing with you, all these other, ailments that are kind of illustrated in your voice. The AO scan also can tell you with some specificity past injuries, ailments, diseases that you've had. So like you had a mosquito bite 4 years ago, on your forearm that like messed with you. You had a histamine reaction that lasted 6 months, and we can detect that through the frequency of that. Oh, and by the way, here's a little homeopathic uh supplement that you can take that contains the frequency that's going to actually go back and heal the injury
Mhm.
in reaction to that mosquito bite from 4 years ago that sent your histamines out of whack. So I'm seeing the correlation connection here, which is if everything is frequency and you can yeah, whether it's, you know, hook me up with some LSD frequency on my one device, or, super strength, or, I don't know what else I would want. Lots of stuff, I guess, but that it's freaking amazing. Well, now I want to go to LA, or now I want to go to LA to go get my frequency diagnosed, or measured so that
Please.
I can amplify it, dude.
It's insane, man. And this is just scratching the surface, right? And yeah, with the voice, I know like we've detected cancer through your voice, right? Like, this is and like with no other tests could, in like super early stage.
Okay, so now I'm going to try to poke holes on this like I sometimes do. So if you are, let's say, into the future a bit, anybody can say, okay, I want this frequency because I want to be this way. Are preventing ourselves from a level of self-mastery where we don't have to, where we can just change our state because we choose to, or because we've cultivated that skill, rather than dialing in our one device or X device or Y device and just giving it to you? Are we, do you know where you see where I'm going with that?
So are we like cheating basically, right?
Well,
It's too
well,
easy.
you will cheating, but what does that actually mean? Yes, cheating, but what does that actually mean? Well, that actually means that I'm having everything that I want all the time, and I'm getting to dial in this thing, and it's like CRISPR technology, right? It's like it's fascinating, probably has a lot of amazing applications, but also, do we really want to have every single offspring be this like perfect, specific? I want my kid to be 6'4" with blue eyes and a square jaw, great at math. Like, are we toying around? And it's not like playing God, but it's like, are we undercutting our own potential ability for the struggle that comes along with self improvement?
Ooh, such a good question, man. But it actually is playing God a little bit, like a
Yeah,
lot.
right. Yeah. CRISPR.
Yeah, and I mean, I have friends who have like already selected very specific traits for their kids through this. Like, it's expensive, but the price is only gonna come down. Very interesting. Okay, so yeah, obviously I don't know. This is a really, really good question. Um, so okay, do you know who Bashar is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, it's a channel, right? It's a guy who channels this alien who lives, I think, 300 years in the future on another star system. And whether or not you believe it is irrelevant. He says, first of all, really entertaining stuff, and then second, really like interesting, and at least it resonates with me. Anyway, so according to him, on their planet, they have all agreed, and they basically created this artificial frequency field around their planet for the whole planet. So it's like this sphere around their planet that's generating this frequency. And this was also one of the inspirations behind one device. Is like at some point, I'm assuming we're all going to agree to have this like magical frequency that just makes everything great. Until then, we all need one ourselves, and like we can have one personally, and that's why wearables are such a good way of doing it. But then after that, you can have one for your house, like for your school. Like it takes agreement between everyone. But so I guess to answer your question, think if they seem to have agreed to that, so maybe it's okay.
Maybe it's a good thing.
But that's okay. But that's I think a bigger philosophical question, because this the being human is this like imperfection and all the challenges, right? So, and also the idea of like separation from God, right, is also what makes us human. So if we were like constantly in resonance, yeah, I thought about this too. Like if we're constantly in resonance with this source energy all the time, Is it boring? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the question, right? And
Yeah.
I forget whose thought experiment was. Who's the British guy, philosopher, really brought Eastern mysticism to the West, smoked
Alan
a
Watts?
pipe. Alan Watts. He has that thought experiment. It's like, suppose you get everything that you want,
Yeah.
right? You have everything you want, all your need, you want, you know, you want to look your best, you want to have as much sex as you want with whoever you want anytime. That's going to get old pretty quick, right? Like the struggle is part of what makes life interesting. And well, then what? Then what do you do? If everything is perfect all the time, or if you're in total resonance with the exact moment or this person where everything's just absolutely dialed in and perfect, then does that get boring?
So I have actually an answer to that. For once. So I have this, I wrote this like children's book a while ago, and it's basically the idea is how this whole not even this whole creation started. It started from this ball of love just being love all day long with nothing to do. It's just boring. You're just unconditional love. It's amazing. It's like the best feeling in the world. And then you decide to play a game and you split up your consciousness between, you just want to play some game, and game is usually some kind of a challenge. And that's, I think, how we ended up here in this reality, right? Like we're is one of some challenges. And so at a certain point, like we journey back to like more and more resonance. At a certain point, we just reunite with that one consciousness again, and we just decide to keep playing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So none of this has any point.
Yeah. Well, right. If the earth is a school for the soul where you experience pain, despair, loss, fear, love, lust, your soul evolves because it's going through these things. You're learning these lessons. And what I believe through my mystical practices and occult learnings through various spiritual teachers is the incarnational cycle that we go through is you sign up for it. You say, I'm going to pick these parents as dysfunctional or weird as they are. I want to learn the lesson about this thing in this incarnation. I want to learn these lessons kind of with these people from my soul tribe, soul group, so that I can know what it feels like to be this, to go, my soul can feel what it feels like to go through these things, right? And for some people, it's a charmed life. You have everything, your life looks a little different. You're Siddhartha Gautama and you say,